Alright, so today I got my little makeshift wood shop here. While I'm at college, I got my circular saw there, my jigsaw, got some drill bits, drill. My drill's actually inside at the moment, but this is the battery for it. I got my walnut. This is what I'm going to be working with today. And so the plan is for today, I'm going to be using this piece of walnut here, along with this plate I have for a template. And I'm going to route it out with a router there to make the cavity for the keyboard to actually sit in. Now bear with me here because I'm not too much of a pro at cameras. I just figured I would document the process here as I go because I think it's worth sharing. So yeah. Alright, step one is I'm going to take this board I got here at Home Depot. I'm going to make a template out of this here using my plate again as the guide. I'm going to trace it out and then I'm going to cut it out the size of this board here so I can have something to clamp it down onto while I route it out. Alright, aside from fixing that little issue I had with the camera there, I think the shot looks a lot better now. I have went ahead and taped down this here. You can see I got this traced down all the way along it here. And I taped this down about where I wanted it and traced around that, so we can go ahead and peel that up now. And as you can see here, I now have it traced out right where I want it. So next step is I'm going to drill it out in the corners and then cut it with my saw there. Alright, so I've now drilled out the holes in each of the corners here, so that my blade here can fit through them. Well, maybe it can't, but it's close. I might drill them out a little bit wider. We'll see if I can get it in there or not. But yeah, I'll just go and put this blade into that and then see if I can cut this guy out here. Alright, so first pass through is what I was able to get. So yeah, it just needs a little bit of filing and then that should be good to go, but you can see this is my scrap piece here and we'll see how well it fits with this. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I was looking for there. Yeah, so yeah, I'll just file this guy down and then probably cut out the big box so I can clamp it down onto this piece here. Alright, so now I got that piece cut out. Maybe it's a little bit easier to see the picture of what was going on here. So yeah, the plan is I'm maybe going to take like a hand file or some sandpaper and run along this so I can have a clean edge to work from. This shouldn't be too big of a deal because this is just, the only reason I left the bulk of this on is so that I could have something to clamp it to. So yeah, I'll go ahead and clean this up with some sandpaper here or just some hand sanding and get that nice and smooth. Alright, so here I went ahead and got it smoothed out. It's not exactly a straight line, but after I route it, I'll just clean up my piece of walnut here once I get that all finished. And it's clamped down on both sides of the piece here. I put a piece of duct tape in the middle. Now it's not really going to help too much, but there was a bit of bowing like when you press here. I want this to be as sturdy as possible so I can really press against it with the router while I'm using it. But yeah, next step here is to take this drill, which I have marked off at 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to drill it into this board here, maybe a couple different places just so I kind of have a depth. So as I route along it, as soon as that hole disappears, I'll know to stop. Alright, so I figured I'd do a quick little update. I think I'll need to vacuum up our yard here when I'm done. But it's going along pretty well here. It's not quite to the depth I want yet, but it has been working well. Now I'm not going to lie, this is the first time that I've used a router. Get this out of the way. But I think it's actually going pretty well. On the edge here's what I've been working on. I started by going a little bit too deep at first, and I was actually making embers on the wood, but now that I've got all it figured out, it's going along pretty smoothly here. So I'm going to go ahead and finish routing out this middle here and get it down to the lowest depth that bit can go. And then I'll do another quick little update. Alright, so you can see what I've done now. I've gotten it all fairly flat here. Now it's got its blemishes here and there, but I'm not too concerned because I still need to swap out the bit I currently have on that for a little bit of a deeper one over here, so I can get down to the full depth. All these holes here, by the time I get down to the depth, will be gone. I'm going for 3/4 inch, and so I still got another, I don't know, like 1/4, 3/8 of an inch left. But yeah, overall it's going pretty well. So I guess I'll get back to you guys when I lower it down. Da-da-da. Okay, so here we got fully routed out cavity. Now it's not too clean as far as like the edges are still kind of messy, which I am not too concerned about, because I was planning on going back through anyway and hand sanding and filing this back, make it nice, but I figured I would go ahead and show you guys the big reveal. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these clamps here. Alright, and then boom. Okay, so there is the cavity, which I'm a pretty big fan of how that turned out actually. Now this probably isn't exactly straight, but this edge here is pretty rough, so I'm going to go back through with my trusty file here. I'm a big fan of this one. I'll probably just clean up this edge here. Not entirely sure yet how. Maybe with the chisel is how I'll clean up this inside here. We'll see. But also, this is the plate, right? It doesn't quite fit in here. It's pretty close, but I think I made it just a little bit too small. So either I could make a new template here, and I might end up doing that, not sure yet. That, or I could just see how much the hand filing does. Also, while I was routing it out, and I was on the deeper router here, this deeper bit, when I was lifting it up, I accidentally came through here and I hit this, which is unfortunate, but again, while I'm hand filing it out, maybe to make this fit, I can bring this whole bottom edge down just a little bit more. But yeah, I guess next step is actually to go ahead and cut out the edge. That, or I can file it down first and then cut out the edge, we'll see. Well, anyway, I'll pick you guys back up in a second. Alright, so my goal now with this is I want to try and taper it down on the end so it has a bit of an angle to it. Give it kind of an angle there, like how keyboards have that little feet on the back to prop them up, except this one's not going to have feet, it just has an angle in the block. So the way I'm going to accomplish that is using this door frame here as a jig. So I'm going to cut it into 4 different pieces and make a little box out of it. And then I will prop this guy up, except it'll be upside down. So I'll prop it up on one side so it's risen off the ground, and then I will put it inside the frame that I fit around it. So with my router here, I'm going to get a bigger plate on the bottom of it. That way it can easily be supported over top of the frame, and I can kind of level it out, level out the angle on it. It'll probably make a bit more sense once I get it all put together, so I will be back in a moment. Alright, so this is kind of the setup I was trying to describe here. I got this frame built around it. That's all roughly the same height there. And then I have it taped down to a couple pieces of stacked up wood here in order to give it the height on that end so it's kind of leaning down. And then what I'm going to do is, using my new router jig here that I crafted out of an old piece of wood sitting over there, I'll be able to slide it on top of this frame here and then cut out this area here to be flat across there. So once I take it all out, the keyboard will have a tilt to it. Alright, so I started routing and I realized something here. First of all, it's turned out pretty well, so I'm happy with that. You can see how it's starting to flatten out there. And it does have a lot of marks in it. That's something I'm planning on cleaning up after I get it all carved out here. But yeah, the issue is this frame here is too tall, or my bit is too short to be able to get all the way down to this level where I need to be. Well, it looks like it's also starting to rain here, so that's great. So what I'll have to do is either shorten this frame or see if I can raise this piece up in the middle, find something to set it on, so that I can get all the way down to that bottom part here. So I'll be back once I figure that out, and honestly I'll probably just go ahead and route it out and then show the final result here. Alright, so after all the routing, this is what we're left with here. And I'm pretty happy with the results here. There are a couple of parts where it went a little bit deeper here. And essentially what had happened was my router started making a weird noise, and then I stopped it, and then as soon as it came to a stop, the bit just dropped out of it. So I think the bit had just kind of gotten loose and started to go a bit deeper here. So that's not a big deal though, because I need to sand it down anyway. What I think I'm gonna do, because I don't trust my hand sanding to make it even, is I got a belt sander at home, so I'll have to run back and get that, and then I'll belt sand it down, get it nice and smooth. But go ahead and have the results. Yeah, I've ended up taping everything together at this point. It's faster than nails and it's easier, and it's temporary, so it's nice to just be able to tape everything. You can kind of see the effect it creates here. I'll have to trim it down. I went wider than the actual hole, which will be nice. That way I can cut it down on the side here and it'll be good. But yeah, so the back's still full height here. That tapers to that in the front. And so once I cut these side pieces off, which I'll probably do fairly soon here, you'll be able to see how well it sits angled. Yeah, I'm holding it level right now, so you can kind of see, well, not very level, but it'll have some sort of angle like that. That's what I'm going for. So go ahead and figure out whether I'm going to cut the sides next or what the plan is, but I'll catch you guys up in just a second. Look at that. I'm pretty happy how this is coming so far. I wasn't originally planning on keeping this bottom part here. My plan was to cut it off like right here, but I actually really like having this here. Unfortunately, it does have a little chip in it there. I don't want to pull that piece off, so maybe I can taper it down more, or I could try and glue that on there and keep it there, because it hasn't come off yet. We'll see. Or I could cut it back a little bit closer. But yeah, I'm very happy with how this thing is looking. Couldn't have asked for it to turn out any better. But yeah, next step is you can see this line here that I've drawn. I'm going to file it back to that. I ended up using the jigsaw to cut this out because it's got a better guide. I can see where I'm cutting a lot easier than with the circular saw, so I decided to go with the jigsaw to cut through this and this. But yeah, you can see the line on both sides. So now I'm just going to try and file it back, get a nice clean edge here up to this line. So yeah, that's the plan for now. Alright, so what I've done now is I've smoothed down these sides so they have a bit more cleanness there and smoothness to them. And my next goal is I brought my belt sander there, so I want to see if I can clean this up without compromising the actual levelness of the base here. So yeah, I'll just see if I can clean up some of those bumps there that it's got on it. So yeah, I will be back after I do that. Okay, so now using that belt sander, I was able to remove a lot of the imperfections on it. It's not entirely flat because it's still got this kind of thing here, this little guy here. However, for the most part, I did remove a lot of the bumps and lines in it, so I'm honestly pretty happy with that. My thing is I really don't want to take it too far because I don't want to accidentally ruin the level disc, because I think where it's at now it's still pretty flat, which is what I was wanting, and you're really not going to see the bottom, so it shouldn't be too big of an issue. My next step though is I tried to fit the PCB in it, and it was just a little bit too small of a hole here, so I just got to file out along the edges here or here and just kind of be able to fit it in there a little bit better. So that's my next goal, is just to kind of hand sand those, get them down to where it can fit in a lot easier. So we'll be back in a minute. Alright, so as you can see here, this plate actually fits in here pretty well now. So I think I'm going to bring this up to my room and I will put the PCB in, see if that fits well. And then I also just got my standoffs in the mail, so I will try putting those in and see if I can figure out where they're going to line up on here and go and getting them drilled in. So be right back. So it looks like the PCB fits in pretty well into that, and then the plate will just go right on top of that. So now I got these standoffs here. I'll figure out where they fall in here and see if I can put some marks on the actual wood so I can get those attached. Alright, so now I have found where all these go. This one wasn't fitting in very well, and these two I need to wait on, and I'll show you why in just a sec. But I sanded the whole thing down, got those where they need to go, And then this hole here, I got that cut out for the plug, but it ended up being too small, which is why I left these here, so I could file through it and without hitting those. So yeah, I will make that hole a bit wider. It needs to come this way a little bit, so it needs to come to the left and up, just to make it a bigger hole so it can fit in there. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then my next step is I'm going to hang it by this hole. So I have some string that I'm going to probably just hang from this roof here, and then I have my satin finish over there that I will put onto it and hang it up and let it dry for a little bit. So yeah, that's the plan. Alright, so I've now widened out the hole on that on the USB-C port here. I put all these pins in except for this guy right here, which I'm hoping once the satin finish here goes on it, maybe I can plug up that hole a little bit so I can re-drill it and maybe it'll stick in there better. But yeah, next step is I got it hanging here on this ladder. So I'm going to go ahead and use, all I could find was a napkin. So I'm going to try and use this watered up napkin to brush this on. So I'll update you once you finish that up. But yeah. Alright, it's starting to get kind of dark out, but I went ahead and put one coat on it. The inside I'm not as concerned about, so I didn't quite coat that as well. Try to get around the edges pretty good, but using this napkin, which I probably won't do in the future, it's got little napkin bits on it, so which I think will be fine because they'll sand off, but yeah, that's what it looks like. So I'll come back and probably do a couple more coats, and then I'll do another update once I'm done with the finishing process. So yep. Alright, so here I got the product of the finish. So I put the finish on it, and then I've taken it off now and I've sanded it down with a 400 grit sandpaper. Yeah, again, the inside's still rough, but it doesn't really matter a whole lot because the finish is mainly for the outside here, but I wish I could show you. It feels very smooth. And my next step, really my last step, is to put the wax on it. So I'll put a wax on it and I'll get like a cloth or something, just buff it, hand buff it down, and get that to a nice finish. And then after that, I got these little feet. Got a lot of them because this is the smallest pack I could get, but I'm gonna put these little rubber feet on the bottom of it. So yeah, I'll go and wax it up and we'll do a little final shot of it